Let's make a soft spine junk journal out of a vintage book cover. Welcome, it's Barbara from Vienna, Austria. This is a design team project for the Digital Collage Club, and I'm going to use two different paper sets. One is the Jane Austen journal kit, and what goes really well with that are the beautiful backgrounds from the William Morris kit. In case you are new to the Digital Collage Club, it's a membership-based website with thousands of royalty-free digital craft supplies. Once you sign up for a membership, you get instant access. All images are created exclusively for this club. New images are added each week, and you're able to sell the craft items you created with these images. There are two options available: a membership for 1 year or a lifetime, which means you pay once and have access to all the images and tutorials for your whole life. You can find discount codes for both types of memberships linked below in the description box. I would like to point out that I do receive a commission if you use these links, so it's also a huge help for my small creative business. As always, thank you in advance if you sign up or if you've joined in the past using my link. Please note that in order to use my codes for the discount, you need to use the link below, otherwise it won't work. So as you can see, I have prepared some materials. Let me start off by showing you some of these covers first. So these are all covers from books that I found for free. You know, we have one of those book boxes. I don't know if they're available in your countries. I think a lot of countries have them, where you can just take books and give books and it's all free. And usually people don't want these vintage books anyway, so I'm happy to take them and give them a new purpose. So I've already taken off the covers, and these are some options that I had for today's project. A lot of these would have worked. See, they're different sizes and different colors. And in the end, I decided to go with this one for two reasons. Let's move these others away. First of all, because of the colors. Because when I look at my printouts of this beautiful Jane Austen kit, you see how harmonious these covers go with the cover here. And then I decided I wanted a smaller journal, and I didn't want to have to cut every page to a specific size. So I printed these out, printing 2 pages on one sheet. And when I fold them, this is the size one page obviously will have, and it will fit beautifully into this cover. I do plan on making some of the other pages larger so that these don't look so lost. And then I printed these gorgeous William Morris designs, double-sided. All of this is regular copy paper, but look how beautiful these colors match. I mean, these two kits were just made to go together, don't you think? So I'm going to make these a little bit bigger than these. So I will have to cut each one of these down. Yeah, they're too wide and too long. So I'll cut all of those down and fold them. I'll cut all of these out and fold them. Then I picked out some original vintage papers. It's a mixture of English and German papers. This is one of these railroad envelopes I found in my last vintage haul. And this is a book page. Oh, there's French as well, I forgot. Some shorthand. Oh, this is from Portugal, actually. This is going to be a very international journal. Daily time slip in English, French, German invoice, also from my last haul. If you're interested in seeing everything I found in this vlog, you can check out the vlog number 10 on my channel, which is my latest vlog. An envelope which is closed but empty. Some beautiful German ledger paper. And some Austrian bonds from 1921. And I almost forgot, I have this coffee dyed paper. Oh, it still smells beautifully like coffee. I just coffee dyed these a couple of days ago. And all I did was put them into a bath of pretty dark coffee, probably the darkest I've ever made. Cannot give you measurements, I just kind of poured it in. And while it was still wet, I added some of the instant coffee granulate on top and then sprayed that with water. So I'm very happy with how these came out. So on the front side where you had the granulates, you have more distinct impressions. And on the back you have like these faded blobs. So you get the idea, I think. So I've cut these all down to size. These I printed double-sided, so I don't need to do anything there. Obviously, my coffee dyed papers are double-sided, but these are not. So these are white on the back side. And I get questions sometimes what to do with the white back sides. Obviously, you can also print double-sided, but I wanted to have more pages, which is why I didn't. You could, of course, already print on coffee dyed paper, but then your print is going to be a lot darker. You could also add coffee on the back side, either by spraying it or by brushing it on. Probably easiest with a foam brush. But you have to be aware when you do that, it will impact the front side because coffee usually does come through. I have not tried this with tea, but these images will get a little more grungy. So if that's the look you want, then great. But if you don't, like me, for this project, I do not want these to get grungy. I think the easiest thing to do, which will not impact the printed side at all, is to use Distress Oxides. So I took my color swatches of my Distress Oxides to figure out which colors would best work with this kit. So I laid these out. Looked at what colors we have here. Basically, we have a lot of different pastels mixed with some earthy tones. So I have a lot to choose from here. And if you're interested in how I made these swatches, I followed a tutorial by my dear friend Louise Heinzel. She has a whole playlist on swatching her products. And you can do this with any products. They don't have to be the Distress Oxides. You can find Louise's playlist below this video. It has been super helpful for so many projects already. Maybe you're thinking, well, I can just hold this to my project, but this is not the true color. And also this is not the true color. So if you want to know what your colors look like, then you need to make swatches. I've already chosen some stencils that I might want to use. So let's get started. I'm starting off with crushed olive and this swirly stamp, it might be called Flourish by Tim Holtz. The number is THS032, so I will link this one for you below. And since it's not wide enough to go this way, I'm going to use it this way. And as you can see, I left a bit of a border here on top as well because I knew I had one on the sides and on the bottom and in the middle. This stencil here is from Action, so I'm not able to link this for you. And I'm going to use Distress Ink Forest Moss. This actually has the perfect width, so that's awesome. This is another one from Action, and I'm going to use Rusty Hinge. This one I believe is by Studio Light. If possible, I will link this for you. I'm going to use speckled egg. So let me quickly show you all of the finished designs. And by the way, these color variations, you can see here, there's a little bit of like a purplish tone in here and there's some yellow in here. Just came because I don't clean my stencils after I use them in this way. And I do that on purpose because I love it when things like this happen. To get something like this, I do the stencil on one side and then I flip it over and do it on the other side. And I think this you've seen already. So I have all of my pages ready to go. As you can see, I have folded them all up. I've also inked everything up except the vintage ephemera. That took a moment. And then I've also sewn around always 1/2 of the coffee dyed paper with a mixture of zigzag and running stitch. And I had 2 ephemera pieces that were smaller here that I didn't want to fold in half. So I just added a piece of fabric, first glued it on just with a glue stick and then stitched the fabric on. And I think fabric is a great choice because it stays nice and soft. So now I can go ahead and put together my signatures. My plan is to have 3 signatures. So each signature will get 2 of these, 2 of these, 5 of these, and 3 of these. So that means each signature will get 12 pages. We'll see if that's enough once I have them all together. So I've arranged my 3 signatures and I've also added 2 more pages to each. So each signature now has 14 pages. And I think that will work really well. So my next step is to cut away the spine from this book cover. I'm definitely keeping this for future projects. So this is what it will look like, but of course we still need to make our spine. The method for the spine was inspired by another YouTuber, Melanie Sullivan. I will link the video for you below this video so you can check that out as well. And she uses a piece of canvas. I buy these sheets from Action, but you can also find something very similar on Amazon if you just search for canvas sheets. These are also the same ones that you can print on with your inkjet printer or probably also even with your laser printer if you have one. So these come in pads and they are very practical. So since I have my signatures mostly done, I can now determine the width of my spine. So I'm going to just stand this up loosely, how I would want the signatures in my book. I wouldn't want them squished like this. So I'm going to just stand them up loosely. And then I can measure. I want my spine to be 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches. I of course need a little overlap, so I'm going to add about 1.5 centimeters each to the front and the back, so that would make it 6.5 centimeters or 2.5 inches. And then I can also measure the height of my book. And cut that down. So once I have my canvas strip for the spine, I want to decorate it. You could just paint it actually, that would also be fun, or stencil on it. But I'm going to cover mine with fabric. And to figure out what kind of fabric to use, I already chose my cover image for this book, which is this one from the Jane Austen kit. And I printed this on 200 GSM cardstock, the same size as I have printed these pages. So this is going to go on the front here, and that helped me determine which fabric I wanted to use. So I'm going to make like a little patchwork strip, and I chose fabrics that would go well with this fabric right here. So I'm just going to layer these up. I'm going to use textile glue and a brush to adhere these. Once that has completely dried, I'm going to go ahead and cut down any excess. And optionally, you can add some machine or hand stitching as well. So I took this to my sewing machine and I went around it once. And I also added some crazy stitching in the middle, just to try something different. But before we attach this to the cover, we also need to do something with the inside of the book covers. In my case, I actually wouldn't have to. This would be fine as it is. But I'm going to cover mine. And I'm going to use these strips that I have left over from the William Morris kit. Rather than printing a new sheet to completely cover this, I'm just going to do some patchwork with the ones I already have. And I'm going to use my Liquitex matte gel to adhere the paper. The reason for using this matte gel is, first of all, when I get the glue outside of where the paper is going to be, I know it's not going to be shiny at the end. And also I know this is not going to warp my paper. And this time I'm paying attention not to go outside of this border because I want the green to still show. So these are my 2 finished inside covers, and to adhere our spine, which is going to go on the outside like this. You could of course cover the back side as well. I think it's kind of fun to see this crazy stitching, so I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm going to make some holes here. So I'm going to do what Melanie did in her video, which is to punch holes here. I'm going to use my cinch for this, but Melanie shows you exactly how to do this if you only have a manual single punch as well. The other alternative, of course, is to just glue your covers onto the spine. I'm always a bit nervous using the cinch because there's no turning back. If I mess up this cover, then it's messed up. And I don't use it that often, so I don't feel that familiar with it. Let me keep this down just to show you what I'm doing, otherwise it's going to focus on the handle. Since the width of my cover is longer than the holes I have here, I'm going to have to do it in 2 parts, which makes me even more nervous because if these don't line up, it's going to be a mess. Fingers crossed that this will work. So I'll start off lining up my cover here so that this hole here is as far down as I want it to be. And I will have to add some more holes afterwards here. So I've lined it up here, and I will actually mark that with a washi tape so that I can line up the other one exactly the same. Because the ruler doesn't go further in this direction, it only moves out further in this direction, which doesn't help me. So, okay, this is where the other one goes. I could also just remember the measurement actually. Would be easier. And then I'm just going to release this handle and punch that through. And this is quite difficult. I'm standing up. Okay, so I have this so far. So far, so good. Now the part I'm most nervous about is to continue here. This is a very smart tool because it has a little notch here. You see that? So when you line up this with the second to last hole that you've already punched, you can keep punching the holes seamlessly. And I strongly recommend you try that out on a scrap piece of paper before you do it on your real project, if you're not familiar with this function. So actually, I don't even have to put it in the second to next hole. I can make sure it lines up with any of my holes, because then it will just re-punch the holes that are already punched. But what's important is that my last hole is the same distance from the top as the last one on the bottom is from the bottom. You know what I mean? This is really nerve-wracking. And you can even push this thing down to go into the hole to make sure that it's in the right spot. That's really awesome. I just discovered that now. Okay, so now they should really go into the same holes. So I will re-punch. Sometimes it's tricky to get it out, and yes, it worked, yay. Oof. Okay, so I just need to be able to do that one more time for the back side. Double check that you're punching the right edge, not the outside one, but the inside one. All right, it worked. Oh my goodness, I'm so relieved. Then we're going to secure the spine onto the book covers to make it easier to sew them on. We're going to sew these by hand. Melanie uses her 3-in-1 glue, but I'm going to use my Collage bookbinding glue for this. And I'll just put this on the edge. I'm using this one because it's a very strong glue, and by brushing it on like this, it does not ooze out as easily as 3-in-1 glue would. So I'm putting the canvas on the outside. You could also put it on the inside if you like. And I just have to put it in so that the holes are covered. So we won't actually see these holes on the outside cover. I'll just make sure it's straight. And then I'll do the same on the other side. Then I'll just clamp the edges down. So once your glue has dried, you can start with the stitching. I chose a bookbinding needle, which has a tip which is pointy. This is my biggest, most sturdiest needle because I'm thinking to go through the canvas, you need kind of a substantial needle. I chose a thread that would match the thread I've used in my signatures and here. And I chose 3 lengths of the book for my thread. So we're going to start at the top. I'm going to start with the back cover just in case it doesn't turn out as pretty, since this is the first time I'm doing this. If you have these large holes like I do now, in order for the stitch to look regular, if that's the look you want, you should always stick to putting your needle in the same place in each hole. For example, either always put your needle through the top of the hole or the bottom of the hole, but be consistent. So I'm going to do it at the top of the hole. So I'm going to go from the inside out because I want my knot to be on the inside. See, and I can see that the glue is not gripping well enough yet. I'm gonna try it anyway. I am impatient. Okay, there. So I'm going to go outside. And we leave a tail long enough that we can tie easily. Then we're going to loop over the top edge of the book and go out again. I'm trying not to pierce my thread. Okay, so you see I've looped around it once. And then I'll come back in and then we make a knot here to secure it. So again, Melanie's instructions are a bit more detailed than mine are. And now we need to make a tight knot. So I'll make a double knot. I won't cut this off just yet, just in case I realize it's not tight enough. Okay, I brought you down a little bit further. Melanie then goes around it one more time, which I'm not going to do because I don't want this thread here to be too thick in contrast to the others. So we're going to do a change stitch. So we'll pierce through the next hole, again at the top. You could also just do a running stitch. Then we take our needle and we go through the top stitch without piercing it. Make sure it's nice and tight, and then go back in the same hole that we just came out of. Like that. Always make sure you pull the thread tight. Then we're going to go into the next hole. Again, going into the top of the hole. Going through the stitch on top. Pulling it tight and then going back into the same hole. And we'll continue that until we get to the bottom. So I have 4 more holes to go and I'm running into a problem, which is quite annoying. You see this thread is not long enough. So I'm going to have to undo it all and take a longer thread. So I would suggest using 4 lengths of the book instead of 3. So I'm going to do this all over. Oh no. See you back here when I'm at the bottom. But this gave me an idea now. I think it would be much better to have all the holes already punched with an awl rather than trying to punch those through with the needle, and then you're more flexible with the kind of needle you're using. And once we've come out the last hole on the bottom, we are back on the inside. We're going to do the same thing as we did on the top here by looping it around the bottom of the cover this time. So I'm just going to go around here, go in the same hole, pulling it tight. I'll do that one more time. Go around the cover, going back to the inside. Okay, you see how little I have left, and this is 4 lengths of the book. I don't know how Melanie did that with 3. You could even do 4.5 just to be more comfortable. Okay, and then Melanie does a so-called half hitch. So I'm going to go through the bottom loop here. This is proving to be very difficult because, again, my thread is so short. How does Melanie do it? And she has like a long tail still left. I have no idea. Oh, and then I shouldn't have pulled it tight because we want to go through that again. Okay, Barbara, let's try that again. Talking and sewing at the same time can prove to be tricky. Okay, so I still need that loop because I need to go through that again. Again, please see Melanie's video for instructions that might make more sense from someone who is actually experienced in doing this. Okay, I can't thread my needle back. So I'm just going to do this by hand. Put the end through and then we pull that tight. And you're supposed to do that a few times. But how? With this short thread. Can I do it another time? Let's give it a try. So I'll go through it once and then try to thread this through. Okay, so I'm looping through this again, and then I'm not pulling it tight because I want to thread this through one more time. The thread that I just pulled through. This is like doing surgery. Oh my goodness. Okay, got it. Ooh, okay, so 2 half hitch knots. Thank goodness we did it. Okay, then I'm going to cut this short, and I'll also cut the top short. And just for good measure, I'm going to put a dot of glue on both knots. I did it. I sewed both parts on. My learnings from this experience are, first of all, poke your holes before. That was so much easier than poking your holes through the canvas and the fabric with your needle while you're sewing. And that way you can use a needle which is a little more blunt, which will make it less likely to pierce the thread when you're threading it through. And also take 4.5 to 5 lengths of your book for the thread. Otherwise, you'll end up with the same problem that I had. But I must say I enjoyed the process of sewing this on. It seems super sturdy. I mean, this is not going to come apart. It looks very neat as long as your holes are lined up. It also looks neat on the outside. So I am a huge fan of this style of spine. If you wanted to, you could cover these holes with lace if you don't want them to show. I'm happy to have them show because I think they look cute. So now let's deal with the cover. If I wasn't doing a themed journal like Jane Austen, I would even consider leaving this as is because it's cute. But since I have a Jane Austen theme, in my eyes it doesn't work to leave this with a different name on the front. So I wanted to use this image. But I think rather than using the whole image, I'm going to cut her out there. So I'll just cut the beige part off like this. And I'm going to just put a little book in here to make this easier to work on. So now, of course, we have the issue that some of this is showing underneath. So I want to add some more papers. And I found these originals. These are from an Austrian vintage savings book. And I think they have the perfect format and colors for this cover. I actually have a digital version of these. So I will link that for you in case you need something like this. But obviously your book cover is going to look different than mine anyway. So if we angle these to give it a little more interest, then we can put her on straight, because I think if she's just on straight, it looks kind of boring, but turning these gives the whole cover a little bit more dynamic. And then I was playing around with flowers for what seems like forever. I tried all kinds of versions because I thought it needed something, but I didn't know what. So I was playing around with these flowers and different colors and different combinations and blah, blah, blah. I didn't like any of it. She wasn't happy. It wasn't what she needed. I even punched some out with this punch using some of the William Morris prints, but also she was not happy. So instead I realized what she wanted was a name. She wanted to have Jane here, and she wanted to have a little more interest beneath it. So this is what she wanted. So I'll ink up the edges of these two papers and then we can glue everything on. And I'm using fabric glue to glue these on because it's right here. And because it's just a good glue, even for paper. So my experience is if you are willing to be patient and listen to what your project needs, it will tell you and it will feel right when you found the right thing. I've added a couple more things to my signatures and I'm now ready to sew them in. I'm going to use the regular method of just measuring where the middle is, then going out from the middle, equal distances, probably like a centimeter, punching my holes here. I'm going to do 6 holes and I'll just start from the bottom and weave up and then back down and tie it off. And once I have that done, you get a final flip through of the journal. It's done. So you see the 3 signatures here. This is what it looks like on the spine. This is the back. And I ended up doing a 5-hole stitch, going from the bottom and going up and coming back down. I'll give you a silent flip through just with music, and you will see I've added some die cuts using the rest of the William Morris scraps that I had, and I also added some more fabric scraps. Oh, and one more thing before I start to flip through. One of the coolest things about a soft spine like this is that your pages will lay absolutely flat, because once you have the journal open, it's going to warp like this. Your pages are really flat, and that's such a cool feature. You can find links to the kits I used below. I hope you had fun with this little project. Love you guys.
Mwah! Mwah!